Hey everyone, this is Steve. Welcome to my final project presentation. My final project is actually an essay. I'm providing a link on the message board for you all to read it, but this is just a brief presentation on what is covered in my essay. I'm doing coding in the classroom. It's going to be a comparison between the United Kingdom and the United States. I felt that they were good societies to do a compare and contrast due to the just relative nature of societies, the cultures, socioeconomic statuses. I know the size of the UK is a lot smaller than the US, but it's much more condensed. So I thought they were a good comparison. So coding in the classroom. Basically looking to see how coding is in K through 12 and what it's like in the United States and the United Kingdom. I feel that computing and coding is a fundamental part of life and daily life, commerce, and just about every occupation in our modern economy. It's essential that students are exposed to the field of computer science and coding in our K through 12 system, as it's foundational in transforming the way a student thinks about the world. It not only teaches them about technology, it also teaches them how to think differently about problems and how to solve them creatively. Computer science and coding puts students on the path towards some of the highest paying, fastest growing jobs in America and around the world. We consider it critical that students be able to read and write and understand the fundamentals of math, biochemistry, and physics, but to be a well-educated citizen in today's society, I think that they also need to have computing and coding in their toolbox of skills. Students need to have a deep understanding of the fundamentals, and it's crucial that public education takes stance on this charge. In the United Kingdom, there was Lord Jim Knight, his chief education advisor and former member of parliament. He said that we need to ensure that every child leaves school prepared for life in modern Britain. This goes hand in hand with the 2014 national curriculum change, where they took information communication technology out and they put computing in. So now they became the only country in the world that requires every child to study computer science from primary school and onwards. So coding was put into the classroom as early as kindergarten. They outline in the national curriculum in what's called key stages. So key stage 1 is 5 to 7 years old. Key stage 2 is 7 to 8 years old. And so, for example, the computer science expectation of somebody 5 to 7 years old is to understand what algorithms are, how they are implemented as programs on digital devices, and that programs execute by following precise and unambiguous instructions. That's a pretty tall order for a 5 to 7 year old. So, but this is the expectations that the government has placed upon the teachers and the content that they need to deliver to the students and what they're expected to understand. So, to help in this initiative, foundations such as the Raspberry Pi came around and said, we need to help this initiative in the classrooms, help the teachers understand, help students gain the skills that they need to succeed. So the Raspberry Pi Foundation put together their curriculums and their pedagogies on how to teach coding and how to make students think creatively and collaboratively through technology. And they're providing that information to teachers to structure their classes around, or even to structure outside clubs that they might be running around. And here's an example of that curriculum. It has design, programming, physical computing, manufacturing, community, and sharing. So it outlines 4 different types of people: creators, which will be pretty much your K through 12 students, maybe even builders, then your developers, then your makers. Your makers are going to be your much more into the job world people. But this is for the teachers to say, okay, I'm going to have my students at this level. This is what they're going to learn to understand, and I'm going to be using the Raspberry Pi's educational plans to try and move in that direction. Now, Raspberry Pi put together another entity called Code Club. Code Club is coding clubs which are in communities, not necessarily offered through the schools, but they're offered by teachers of the schools, and students of the schools take part in these code clubs. And the code clubs they're trying to give all the children skills and the confidence that they need to shape their world through coding. The teachers are there to help both benefit themselves and to learn. The students are there to help benefit themselves and learn. And together, they're all thinking creatively, thinking computationally, and they're learning together. And they're really starting to become a transformational power in the programming world. In looking at the Code Club, I came across 2 professionals who are offering code clubs in their districts. One was Matt Warren. He's the head of computing at the Grange in Worcester, England. Mr. Warren didn't get back to me. However, I was pretty intrigued on why he did the code club. He was kind of on like the cusp of learning how to code, but not really. But he now knew he needed to do it in his classrooms. So he wanted to both better educate himself and to help his students. And as of now, he's running 2 code clubs. And one of his code club is in a 100-person school, and he has 20 members in it of the school. So he has 20% of the school in his code club. These are students learning how to program in Scratch, Python, and HTML. And along with him is Nicole Mounsey. She's a grammar school teacher at Calday LaGrange, and she's a computing teacher and also mathematics. And she runs code clubs as well, and she runs them mostly for 6th form students, which is 6th grade, and also 9 and 10-year-old students. And her code clubs, she allows them to have a lot of student-led instruction. So she's hoping the students learn enough and they can help out the others in the class. And this is helping build their skills in the classroom in coding and taking it to their other subjects such as mathematics and science, and helping them build these computational thinking skills, which are helping them benefit in those areas. So now on to the United States. In the United States, I wanted to say, well, we got to have coding in every classroom, right? No, we don't. Only 15 states out of the 50 have K through 12 computer science standards. I mean, this is as of 2017. So this is after a lot of push over the last 5 years, and we're still at 15 states. I mean, it's getting there, but it needs to improve. Barack Obama said in the coming years, this was in 2014, he said in the coming years we should build on the progress we've made by offering every student a hands-on computer science and math classes that make them job ready from day one. So he wanted to put forth the Computer Science for All initiative. And the Computer Science for All initiative is going to have $4 billion in funding for the states, and is going to provide $100 million specifically for school districts in order to help every K through 12 student have access to the computer science curriculum. This initiative was eventually shot down by Congress, but recently Donald Trump signed a memorandum giving $200 million towards computer science education, so it was a much smaller percentage than the $4 billion, but it's something. And another reason why Barack Obama felt that we need to provide computer science for everybody was because parents requesting computer science is 90% compared to 10%, but schools offering is 40%. So if parents want it and the students want it, why aren't we offering it? So now comes into play some of the big technology conglomerates around the world, and they're forming these organizations to try and bring computer science and coding to everybody. So there's a group called Code.org. They're trying to expand computer science to all schools, everybody in K through 12. They're supported by Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, and many more companies. They sponsor an initiative called Hour of Code, which you've probably heard of, where it's 1 hour of coding, and everybody around the world is supposed to take part in coding at that same exact time. Their goals are to inspire students. They want to improve diversity in computer science and coding, more women in the computer science and coding, and more diversity. They want to educate teachers in computer science to help these initiatives in the classroom, because the teachers need professional development too when it comes to this. And they want to help change the school district curriculum so that computer science and coding are a part of them. They want to set up policies to support computer science. Another company also along these same lines and initiatives is Apple. Tim Cook says coding should be a requirement in every public school. He made this plea to Donald Trump. We need to push computer science and coding. We need to get it done because this is the skills that people need to be successful. Apple started an initiative called Everyone Can Code. If you click on the link, you can watch a little video about it, but basically saying that, everyone can be a coder. Everyone can learn this, and everyone can make solutions for today's society that, have an impact. Everyone can be creative. By being creative, Apple came out with a new programming language a couple of years ago called Swift to easily develop their iOS platform applications. So for iPhone, iPad, Watch, and Apple TV. Now, this platform was pretty easy for people who are already coding, but not necessarily K through 12 students learning to code. So they came out with Swift Playgrounds. Swift Playgrounds is a simpler format of Swift on the iPad, and they, along with that, made lesson plans that teachers can follow in order to deliver the Swift Playgrounds content to the students and have them follow along in a succession-based lesson plan, and creatively thinking to accomplish these programming goals and to introduce coding into the classroom. So Apple is really making a strong initiative to put coding into everybody's hands and to get their creative minds thinking and to be computational thinkers and the makers of tomorrow. A couple people that I spoke with are Teresa Zuhosky. She's a teacher in the Mattituck School District. She teaches computing, and she doesn't necessarily teach computing in one class, but she teaches computing in all the classes of the school, and she helps the other teachers format their classes to teach coding because they might not necessarily contain the skills to do so. So I was talking about professional development before. In Mattituck, they use the Kid-Oyo platform, which rewards students via badgification, and the students have a digital portfolio where they complete their work and they submit it individually. And as the different challenges are completed, badges are earned. So they have 17 to 25 students working individually on projects, and Teresa says there's a tremendous amount of collaborative thinking and cooperative learning going on. The students are constantly helping each other debug their code and talking aloud to problem solve a scenario together. She also says we're so immersed in technology as a society, and it's a definite advantage for students to see what's going on behind the scenes to create all the apps they're constantly using. Instead of being the consumers of technology, they are working to put their creativity to the test and be creators of programs. They're becoming well-rounded thinkers, and that will translate to all their academic areas. I also interviewed Jason Citrone. He was an AP Mathematics and Computer Science teacher from Hicksville School District. Jason felt the same as Teresa. He said, for me, the goal of coding is to have students think about their environment, cause and effect, and the way that different things interact with each other. He likes how coding allows them to take seemingly complex tasks, break them down into simple, understandable chunks that they could better wrap their heads around. And of course, he likes coding because it's fun. He teaches 10th through 12th grade students, so he teaches them more coding in tougher programming languages such as C++ and Java, but it's all teaching them the skills that they need to provide adaptable skills that are going to help them succeed and achieve in today's modern technology society. So, as you can see, one of the comparisons of the UK and the United States is they both want coding. They both want to have it in the classroom. They both want to have computer science in the classroom. But the difference is that the United Kingdom is saying, you must teach this. This is a standard. This is a skill that we're going to provide our students. And let's go with it. The United States, however, is leaving it up to state policies and state lawmakers to put computer science and coding into their classrooms. And 15 out of 50 states, as of right now, in a very technology-driven world, in my opinion, is not going to cut it. If we expect to have students' success both in the classroom and out of the classroom once they have graduated, we're going to need to provide them with the skills that they need. You know, there's a big push for STEM and STEAM, but where is computer science in that? I know a lot of people like to put coding and computer science into the mathematics portion, but you know what? It needs its own skill in there. There needs to be the addition, needs to be the standard added. We can't depend on these technology partnerships, such as ones through Raspberry Pi, through Apple, Code.org. We can't depend on them to provide the roadmaps and the framework on how to teach coding in our classrooms. If there was already a mandate, there was already expectations, you know, they can still help. You know, people are still going to want to learn and take part in these different initiatives. But we can't depend on them to try and influence the United States on what needs to be taught in our classrooms. We need the U.S. government to say computer science and coding is a skill that is required by today's students, and we are going to offer it in all K through 12 schools. You know, basically what I just said, my thoughts on this whole thing are an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. You know, that was quoted by Benjamin Franklin. I mean, it's going to cost a lot to put computer science and coding in K through 12 schools across the United States. But we're investing in the skill that's going to give all students the knowledge that they need to think creatively, think collaboratively, think computationally, and succeed later in life. So, hope you enjoyed this. Please read my essay. It goes into a lot more detail about all this. And, you know, I had a pleasure taking the class with all of you, and have a great summer.